I am 84 years old. I am lying in a bed that costs more than my father made in a decade, and I am terrified. I was a priest for 40 years. I wore the collar. I stood behind the pulpit. I held the holy book in my hands, and I looked into the faces of thousands of people. People who were hurting, people who were desperate, people who were looking for just a crumb of hope. And I lied to them. I didn't lie about God. I didn't lie about Scripture. I lied about the money. And now, before I take my last breath, I need to tell you the truth that the church doesn't want you to know. I need to tell you how the machine really works. Because if you are sitting in a pew this Sunday, and the plate comes around, and you feel that tightness in your chest because you have to choose between your rent and your tithe, I am speaking to you. Stop paying. I know how that sounds. It sounds like blasphemy. It sounds like I've lost my mind, but I haven't. I have finally found my conscience. For 4 decades, I was a master of what we called the guilt tactic. It is a psychological weapon, honed over centuries, designed to do one thing: open your wallet by bypassing your logic and hitting you straight in your fear center. You think you give because you are generous. You think you give because you love God, and maybe a part of you does. But the reason you give 10% or more, even when you are drowning in debt, is because we trained you to be afraid. I remember the sermon. I had it memorized. I preached it at least once a quarter. It was the Malachi sermon. You know the one. Will a man rob God? I would stand there under the warm lights, my voice dropping to a whisper, and I would look out at the congregation. I would tell them that if they didn't tithe, they were thieves. Not just thieves, but thieves robbing the creator of the universe. I would tell them that the reason they were struggling, the reason their car broke down, the reason their kids were sick was because they had closed the windows of heaven over their own heads. I told them that the tithe was protection money. That was the implication. If you pay God, he keeps the devil away. If you don't pay, well, you're on your own. I remember a woman named Sarah. She was a single mother, 3 kids. Her husband had left her with nothing but debt. She came to me after a service one Sunday. Her hands were shaking. She was holding an envelope. It was crumpled. She looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Father, this is the grocery money for the week, but I need a miracle. My son is sick. I need God to move." And do you know what I did? I didn't tell her to keep the money. I didn't tell her that God loves her regardless of a cash transaction. I didn't tell her to go buy milk and bread for her children. I took the envelope. I looked her in the eye and I said, "Sarah, this is a seed. You are planting a seed. And God is faithful. He will multiply this harvest." I took food out of the mouths of children, and I called it an offering. I watched her walk away, shoulders slumped, believing that she had just bought a miracle. And I walked into the back office, threw the envelope on the pile with the others, and never thought about her hunger again. That is the tactic. We weaponized your poverty against you. We convinced you that the only way out of your financial hole was to dig it deeper by giving the shovel to us. We sold you a lottery ticket and told you it was faith. And the worst part? It worked. The poorer the neighborhood, the higher the giving. Desperate people pay the best. They have the most to lose. And I exploited that desperation every single Sunday for 40 years. Now you might be thinking, "But Father, the church does good work. The money goes to the mission. The money goes to the poor." Let me explain to you the shell game. When you put your check in that plate, you think it goes into a holy account that is used strictly for God's work. You imagine we are buying Bibles, feeding orphans, and fixing the roof. But the reality of church finance is a corporate structure designed to hide wealth, not distribute it. For 15 years, I ran a campaign called the Vision Builders Fund. We had a thermometer made of cardboard in the lobby. Every week, we colored it in with red marker. We were raising $3 million for a new youth wing, a state-of-the-art facility for the kids, a safe haven. People gave sacrificially. Grandmothers gave their pension checks. Men picked up overtime shifts. They wanted to build something for the future. We raised the money. We hit the goal. The thermometer was full. Everyone cheered. We had a dedication ceremony for the groundbreaking. I wore a hard hat. I held a gold shovel. We took pictures for the newsletter. That was 20 years ago. Go to that church today. Look for the youth wing. You won't find it. It doesn't exist. So where did the $3 million go? It didn't disappear. It was reallocated. You see, in the fine print of the donation cards, the print nobody reads, there was a clause. It said that the church leadership reserves the right to redirect funds as needed for the general operation of the ministry. That clause is the trapdoor. We use that money to balance the budget, but what does that mean? It means we use the widow's mite to pay for administrative bloat. We created positions for friends. We hired consultants who were just buddies from seminary, paying them $50,000 to write a report that nobody read. We funneled money into missionary work. That sounds noble, right? But let me tell you what missionary work often looks like. It looks like a pastoral exchange program. It looks like me and 3 other staff members flying to Hawaii for a leadership conference because there is a small church there we support with $200 a month. Because we sent them a check, the entire trip, the airfare, the hotel, the rental cars, the meals. It's all a tax-exempt ministry expense. We weren't on vacation. We were inspecting the field. We sat on the beach in Maui, drinking iced tea that cost $8 a glass, paid for by Sarah's grocery money. And we felt zero guilt. We told ourselves it was necessary. We said, "You can't pour from an empty cup." We convinced ourselves that we needed this rest, this luxury, to be better leaders for the flock. We laundered the congregation's sacrifice into our own comfort. The church is one of the only organizations in the world that can take in millions of dollars, tax-free, with almost zero oversight. We don't have to show you our books. We don't have to show you receipts. We just have to show you a slide once a year with a pie chart that has big, vague slices labeled ministry, operations, and outreach. Ministry is salaries. Operations is the building that we keep air-conditioned for our own comfort. Outreach is the marketing budget to get more people in the seats to give more money. It is a business. It is a corporation that sells salvation and delivers a subscription service. And I was the CEO. I sat in board meetings where we didn't discuss souls. We discussed giving units. That's what we called you. Not people, not sheep. Giving units. We need to increase the revenue per giving unit, the treasurer would say, and I would nod, and I would plan a sermon series on the blessings of generosity to squeeze the sponge a little harder. I want to talk about the lifestyle, because this is the part that makes me sick to my stomach now that I can't eat solid food. There is a lie that pastors are humble servants who live meager lives, and for some, in small country parishes, that is true. But for those of us in the big leagues, the ones you see on TV, the ones with the big buildings, it's a lie. I didn't have a salary that looked outrageous on paper. If you looked at the payroll, I made a decent upper middle class wage, nothing that would make you angry. But you aren't looking at the benefits. I didn't pay for my house. The church provided a housing allowance that covered the mortgage of a 5-bedroom home in a gated community. A home that I eventually sold for a massive profit that I kept. I didn't pay for my car. The church leased it. It was a ministry vehicle. But I didn't drive a used Ford. I drove a brand new luxury sedan. Every 2 years I traded it in for the newer model. Leather heated seats, premium sound system, the works. I told the board, the man of God represents the church. We shouldn't look ragged. It reflects poorly on the kingdom. That was my favorite line. It reflects poorly on the kingdom. I used it to justify everything. Why do I need a $2,000 custom-tailored suit? Because I am an ambassador of Christ. I can't look cheap. Why do we need to dine at the steakhouse where the entrees start at $50? Because we are entertaining donors, and we need to show them we are successful. I remember a specific dinner. It was me, the executive pastor, and a visiting speaker. We were at the most expensive restaurant in the city. The bill came to over $400 for 3 people. We expensed it. As we were leaving, I saw a family from my church in the parking lot. They were driving a beat-up van with a rusted bumper. I knew them. The father had just lost his job at the factory. They were eating fast food in their car because they couldn't afford to go inside a restaurant. I ducked. I literally ducked behind a pillar so they wouldn't see me getting into my church-paid luxury car after eating a meal that cost more than their monthly car payment. I was ashamed, but not enough to change. I was ashamed of being caught, not of the sin. I rationalized it all away. I told myself I worked hard. I told myself I carried the spiritual burden of thousands of people. I told myself I deserved a little comfort because of the heavy mantle of leadership. I built a wall between me and the people I was supposed to serve. I stopped visiting the hospitals because the smell of disinfectant and sickness depressed me. I sent the junior pastors to do the funerals for the poor people. I only did the funerals for the big donors. I became a celebrity in my own little kingdom. People stood up when I entered the room. They brought me coffee. They opened doors for me. They treated me like a king. And I let them. I loved it. I forgot that I was supposed to be a servant. I forgot that the one I claimed to follow didn't have a place to lay his head. I traded the cross for a recliner. I traded the truth for a diverse portfolio. I bought comfort here on earth. I bought the nice house. I bought the respect. I bought the easy life. And I paid for it with my soul. And now, here we are. The end of the road. I am 84. The doctors tell me I have weeks, maybe days. My heart is failing. The pump is broken. I am lying in this big, beautiful house that the church paid for. It is quiet. It is so terribly quiet. My wife passed 3 years ago. My children, they rarely visit. They grew up watching me preach one thing and live another. They saw the hypocrisy at the dinner table. They saw how I treated people. They want nothing to do with my God. And I don't blame them. I inoculated them against faith. I have a lot of time to think now, and the silence is loud. I spent 40 years preaching about heaven and hell. I painted vivid pictures of the afterlife. I made people weep with the promise of glory and tremble with the threat of fire. But now that I am standing on the precipice, now that I am staring into the dark, I am terrified. Because I realize now that I didn't really believe it. Not really. If I had truly believed that I would stand before a holy God and give an account for every idle word, for every stolen dollar, for every crushed spirit, I would have lived differently. I treated the church like a career and God like a mascot. I bought the comfort. I have the soft sheets. I have the best medical care money can buy. But I have no peace. I close my eyes, and I don't see the pearly gates. I see Sarah's face. I see her handing me that crumpled envelope. I feel the weight of that money in my hand. It feels like lead now. It feels like a millstone around my neck. I wonder where she is. I wonder if she lost her faith because nothing grew from that seed. I wonder if she went hungry. I would give everything I have, this house, the cars, the retirement account. I would give it all back just to be able to hand that envelope back to her and say, keep it, buy the milk. God is with you in the struggle. But I can't. It's too late. The books are closed. I am a spiritual fraud. I was a travel agent selling tickets to a destination I had never visited and wasn't planning to go to. And now I have to face the owner of the company. So listen to me. Listen to an old man who has nothing left to lose and nothing left to gain. Do not let them manipulate you. God does not need your money. He owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. If a church tells you that you have to pay to play, that you have to give to be blessed, that you have to empty your bank account to prove your faith, run. Run as fast as you can. Keep your money. Pay your rent. Feed your children. Help your neighbor directly. Buy a sandwich for the homeless man on the corner. That is more of a holy act than dropping a check in a gold-plated bucket to pay for a pastor's vacation. Don't buy the guilt. Don't buy the fear. I sold my integrity for a comfortable life. It was a bad trade. I'm about to find out what comes next. And for the first time in my life, I am not praying for a reward. I am pleading for mercy. Don't make my mistake. Don't let them use you. Live your life. Love your family. Keep your conscience clean. Because when you get to this bed and the lights go dim, the only thing that matters is the truth. And the truth is, I wasted it. I wasted it all.